I knew for a while now. I knew that at some point something was going to go wrong with the Switch 2. This was not exactly on my bingo card, but it's close enough. I don't expect the Switch 2 to keep being the success that it is. I don't. Apparently the sales are slipping for the hardware and the sales aren't very good for the software either. But what can you expect when a lot of the third party games that are coming out aren't actually physical? They are digital on a physical cartridge. It's really just a digital, physical way of buying digital, basically. That's all those stupid key cards are. They're ridiculous and pointless, and they never should have come into fruition. Honestly, I feel like one of the biggest issues with the Switch 2 and even the Switch is that they went back to cartridges. Cartridges are expensive. I feel like what they need to do is figure out a way to have discs. They just do. They need to figure the software thing out. Physical games on discs again. I mean, I had an idea. So here's my idea. Really dumb idea. What if there was an extra attachment? Yeah, I know that's not sounding good, but what if there was an extra attachment that used its own power source, its own battery, that you like attached on the back of the device, and it had like these small discs about yay, probably about the size of the GameCube, that went in there and spun up, that had. And here's the thing. For those who don't know, there are, and I'm looking like Trump doing this, and I hate that. Why? But here's the thing that people don't understand is that there are other formats that have come out since Blu-ray that for just storing data that are like the capacity is extremely high. If you were to take an extremely large capacity, extremely large, one of those large capacity discs, even cut it down a bit to be smaller to fit on something, and had that as your physical media, I think it would be better. I think having a device like that and having physical discs again would be better instead of what we're getting. But that's why the software sells. I feel like that's feeding into the bad software sales because the software sales aren't great. But also it's not just that. It's also the simple fact that a lot of people are playing Switch 1 games on Switch 2. I saw people the other day on Twitter just like posting about how, oh yeah, hey, uh I couldn't play this game very well on Switch, but now it's running. I think it was Dragon Quest Builders, and it was like this one area that would like struggle and be a slog, and it would just blip, blip, blip. But on Switch 2, they were playing it, and it's like it runs smoothly and almost flawlessly in that area. And I was like, and I've seen other posts similar to that. So I feel like that's why software sales aren't great. People are buying or using playing their old games. The backwards compatibility is an Achilles heel. I feel like, or is that the right wording? It's like it's not good. It's not necessarily good. It's great for consumers, but it's not great for the bottom line. But I don't think it helps that there's not a lot of games for Switch 2 that are out currently that are like third party and whatnot. And despite what some people say, like Richard Masucci, review these nuts USA, um, he tries to say that the Switch One was a huge success because you could take your AAA content on the go. Oh, I'm so sick of him hearing that. No, the Switch One was a success in spite of AAA games on the go. In spite of it, it didn't have to have that. It was a huge success before the AAA games started piling in or trickling in and whatnot. It was already a success. It wasn't a success because of those titles. And I can't tell you how many times do I have to say this? And I'm probably not the only one who's saying this. If you can go back and look at the timeline, do some actual fucking research, you will see that the Switch 1 sold really well before the AAA games started piling in. Before the AAA games showed up, it was already a success. It didn't need the AAA games to be a success. It was a success on its own. Did it maybe further it later on? Sure. But it was already a success in spite of them. It wasn't a success because of them. They came later, but he is so convinced of this. Yes, I'm calling out another YouTuber. I don't care. It irritates me, and to this day, he still says this BS. Oh, dear God, shut up. You're a broken record player. Freaking idiot. Oh. Anyhow, so back. I went off on a tangent, but So the software sales aren't doing too well. They kind of took a hit. Their shares slid their most in 18 months after the company reported disappointing earnings, revealing a big hit to margins while concerns grow about the impact of soaring memory chip prices in 2026. The stock fell as much as 11% in Tokyo on Wednesday. The Kyoto company is grappling with global disruptions from U.S. tariffs. I hate Trump! Trump is an a-hole! Trump is a piece of freaking garbage. He doesn't need to be in there. He should have already been kicked out. Ugh, and that never should have been his decision. That should have been Congress's decision. Oh my God, I hate him. Even as soaring component costs brought on by frenzied spending on AI hardware are weighing on its outlook. That's the other thing screwing up other industries. Thank you, AI, for being garbage. This is why so many people are hating AI. This is why so many people are against AI. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it. Let's be clear. There's a lot of reasons for it, but this is one of them. I see gamers all the time just vehemently just displeased and pissed off at AI. Like, this is not doing them any good. It's a bubble. It will burst. I'm looking forward to the burst. But so much of the stock markets and everything are relying on AI at this point. That's where all the money. It's a bubble that's gonna have long-lasting effects once it bursts. It's unfortunate though. The stock fell as much as 11% in Tokyo on Wednesday. The Kyoto company is grappling with. Okay, I already went through all that. Frenzied AI. Nintendo's flagship Switch 2 console, off to a record-setting start in the summer, is now beset by doubt about the Super Mario Bros. Creator's ability to churn out enough software hits to capitalize. Sales at home, where the company priced its device lower to hook consumers, took a bigger proportion of business during the holiday quarter. Yeah, it is less expensive to get a Switch 2 in Japan. It's a Japan-only Switch 2, but it costs less. I can guarantee you the hardware is not, I've said this before, the hardware in that Japan-only Switch 2 is no different than the hardware anywhere else. All it is some code. They inserted some code that said, you can't play anything but Japanese titles on this. If that's the case, why couldn't you just do that everywhere? No, they could. They could. They could. They don't want to. Nintendo is known for unanimous. No, not unanimous. They're synonymous. Synonymous. They're synonymous with needing or wanting or insisting on making a profit on their hardware. I feel like this is a point in time where they need to stop worrying about profits on the hardware, worry about the software. I still feel like, yeah, there needs to be a Switch, of course, a Switch 2 Lite, but I feel like a home console only version of the Switch 2 is a good idea. They don't even have to release plugins for it. They could just put a power plug in with it. It can be an actual home console that has most of the same internals, no screen on it, and just have it be a traditional home console. You can mark down the price on that. You won't have an expensive screen in it, for one. You don't even have to, and this is, I know people are going to disagree with that, you don't even have to ship it with a controller, because if it has USB ports, people can just take any USB controller that they already have, plug it into the thing, and play it. All right, I feel like that's the way to go. We need 2 new Switch 2s. I know this is not, yeah. There's going to be people who disagree, but there needs to be a Switch Lite, a Switch 2 Lite that is just a handheld, but there also needs to be a Switch 2 Lite Home Edition, which is just a home console. I feel like that's the only way that they're going to be able to sell a version of this device that is affordable. You got to cut some things out somewhere, okay? You got to do that. I feel like, yeah, if you just released a home console version only, doesn't even have to have controllers with it, or even an HDMI plug-in. I mean, not plug-in, but, the cable. Just have the power cable in there. People have controllers. People have controllers. They have Bluetooth controllers. They have USB controllers. As long as it's got a USB port on the damn thing, it'll sell well. They can release I don't know how much less expensive it would be. They could release a digital-only home console Switch 2 version. There are routes that could be taken to get the price of this thing down to where more people can buy it. but they still have to contend with RAM issues. I'd be glad when this president that we have goes to hell. He needs to go away. He's a horrible, horrible monster, and he needs to go away. He never should have been elected. Excuse me. Uh, 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 uh. Let's see. Capitalize. Sells at home, where the company priced its device lowers consumers bigger proportions of business during the holiday quarter. Quote, with mobile games like Brain Rot or Roblox visibly capturing more and more young hearts, Roblox has become a major threat in taking shares of Nintendo's younger gamer demographics, said Amir Anvaz, whatever this name right here is, of Asymmetric Advisors. The pressure from memory prices on hardware margins is not the main issue over the long term, he said. What has now become crucial for Nintendo is to sell more software. Yeah, but the problem is that they're not, like I said, they're not selling the software um, as actual full software. You have to, it's just digital on a physical thing. It's stupid. The Kyoto-based company has long taken a patient approach, taking extra time to perfect new games that have won devoted fans around the world. But with user attention increasingly fragmented, and with the upcoming Grand Theft Auto 6 schedule for release this year, I cannot say his name. I'm not going to try. Cautions that the company will face more pressure to retain players and keep up sales. Nintendo executives on Tuesday addressed widespread concern about memory prices, which has seen several consumer electronics brands raise prices or reverse product plans. The market environment is indeed challenging, but we are engaging in long-term discussions with our suppliers to ensure we maintain a stable intake of chips. President Shuntaro Furukawa said during an analyst's call. According to a recording of the meeting, we do not expect major impact during the fourth quarter of this year. However, from the next fiscal year onward, if this price hike lasts longer than anticipated, it could potentially put pressure on our profitability. Furukawa acknowledged the possibility of a price hike, although he said that the company would weigh its options carefully. Instead of a price hike, why don't you make a less expensive version that is either just a handheld or on the go, or just a home console, or both? Cut some tech out. All right, cut out the cartridge slot. Cut out a home console that's digital only. Cut out the screen. Cut out the physical insertion. The physical slot. Cut out the screen. Cut out the wireless controllers. Just have this simple little home device, okay, with a power plug. Get your own HDMI, plug it in, find whatever controller that you have that's either USB or Bluetooth, and go with it. Run with it. I feel like that's what they need to do. That's what they need to do. Let's see. Switch 2 sales came to 7.1 million units in the December quarter, compared with the 6.5 million average analysts estimate. But Nintendo reported a lower than expected 23% rise in operating income. Sales leapt more than 80%, but also lagged projections. Nintendo kept its full year guidance for revenue and operating profit, and stuck to its Switch 2 unit sales forecast of 19 million between its June launch and the end of March. Uh, that seemed conservative, given the Switch 2 had sold 17.37 million units through December, according to Bloomberg intelligence analyst Nathan Nadeau. Weak software sales for Switch 2 propelled the profit miss. Citigroup analyst Tokia Baba, wow, that's okay, wrote in a report, we see investors focusing afresh on risks. What does afresh mean? On the risk of Switch 2 profitability de- deterioration from next fiscal year on. Okay, so this was a long 15-minute video. So here's the way I'm looking at it. Do that real quick. Here's the way I'm looking at it. It might not be there's going to be a few things I think it's going to happen, and they're right. It's going to be hard to hold up. Analysts don't always know. That's the number one thing. You can't always take what an analyst says as gospel. They don't always know. Michael Proctor, was it Michael Proctor? I can't remember. Proctor. He used to run his mouth all the time. I think he still does, and he doesn't know his butt from a hole in the ground. So there's that. But I did see that by some means or another that the things are not going to stay high for the Switch 2. There's games people want to play, and if they don't come to the Switch 2, people aren't going to get a Switch 2. If Grand Theft Auto 6 isn't coming to Switch 2, people aren't going to play the Switch 2, and they're not going to buy the Switch 2. They're going to probably get hardware somewhere else to play Grand Theft Auto, whatever Grand Theft Auto we're at this point. What is it, 6? That's where they're going to go. They're going to go, I don't know, they're just not going to bother with the Switch 2. That's why Nintendo needs to they need to nail down more third-party developers. Like, at this point, it's going to be necessary to have the AAA on the go. I feel like the AAA industry, of course, is dying. I feel like indie is where it's at because I just do. I feel like that's the future of gaming right now. It's indie developed games. I don't feel that the future is in AAA. I feel like AAA is too bloated, too ridiculous, and just unnecessary. And a game only needs to be one thing. It needs to be fun. Switch 2 is not going to stay up where it's at right now. It's still those diehards. All right, there's a lot of them. It's still the diehards. But we are going to eventually see that die down. It's going to slowly happen. Nintendo's going to get into a point where they're struggling a bit, and they're going to have to figure out something. I still think a home console only version, something simple that people could afford, is a good idea. Cut some things out somewhere and release it without a controller, without a HDMI, without a screen, without a physical slot. Make it digital only, and I think it'll do pretty well. Those are my thoughts. Same thing with the light version. Oh, yeah, we'll see how it goes, but I don't expect Nintendo to keep this up. I don't. I don't expect the Switch 2 to be anywhere near the Switch 1. I just don't. Like even Richard McDouche or Richard Madushi. Oh, that's a good name. Richard Madushi. Yeah. He's good. He said before, he was like, um I still expect it to be a pretty good success, but it's not going to be as big a success as the Switch. I don't even expect it to be that much of a success. I expect it to be something that doesn't have the projections Nintendo wants. But that's what happens when you start really trying to get the cost of things to be more expensive than they should be, just so you can roll in more profit. To me, that's a bit anti-consumer. If you can make something lower and still make some money, do it. Whatever pricing you can get it down to. That should have been early on. Like, if the Switch had released with a game at just $400, would have probably done even better than it is right now. But yeah, focus on the software for sure, but focus on how you distribute the software. I don't expect this generation to be quite as good as the last one for Nintendo. They got a lot to figure out. Okay, bye.